So my name is Stacey Ferreira. I have been a serial entrepreneur for the past few years. In short, I started my first company when I was 18 years old called My Social Cloud, which was an internet security company. Built that company with my brother Scott and another co-founder over the course of a few years before selling it to Reputation.com that's based in San Francisco. After selling the company to Reputation, I went on to publish my first book called 2 Billion Under 20 that I co-authored with a friend named Jared Kleinert. And after publishing that book, decided to go for round 2 in the startup game and started my next company, Forge. So I think the future of work is in a lot of ways complex and multifaceted, but one of the things that I always kind of highlight for people is I think that the future of work looks a lot more flexible. So the jobs that people are working, I think people will have a lot more autonomy and control to kind of pick and choose either the hours that they're working or where they work from. If you look at folks who are working jobs where all you need is a laptop and your phone and internet connection, you can do your job from anywhere. I think that means you won't have to sit in the typical 9-to-5 desk, the cubicle anymore. You can do your job from a coffee shop or do your job from really anywhere around the globe. And then the flexibility aspect, I think, again, going away from that 9-to-5 is really the future of where we're going. People won't have to sit in an office at certain times as long as they're getting their work done. And then I see the same thing for people who maybe don't have as much of a flexible job in terms of where they physically sit and the hours that they work. But if you work in retail or in a restaurant or in a hotel or in one of these service-based jobs, a lot of the flexibility might come with the hours that you work. You might be able to pick and choose the hours that you're working. And in fact, that's what we're kind of focused on at Forge, is empowering people to pick and choose exactly when they work these hourly jobs. I think as younger generations are graduating into more leadership positions, we're starting to see this future of work change, right? We're having a younger generation of folks coming up saying, I know that previously people were working these jobs that were very 9-to-5 and everyone was having to sit in the office, and people are realizing that with technology today, we don't have to work that way. And they're changing within their corporations the way that work is being done. They're saying it's okay for you to take a Skype meeting, or it's okay for you to do a Google Hangout for this meeting rather than be physically in the office. So I think we're starting to see some of this change. Some companies are moving a little bit faster than others. If you look at mostly anything that's being kind of disrupted, there's a bell curve of your early adopters and then the people who will say, well, I don't want to be the first one, but if other people do it successfully, I'll join the bandwagon. And then you've got some people who say, oh, that'll never happen. And oftentimes it's those people who don't stick around too long, and their companies don't stick around that long. So I think we're starting to see it incrementally happen a lot faster. When my grandma got her first job, she actually worked only one job her entire career. She worked 42 years in a factory. And then I talked to my mom, and with her generation, she worked 4 jobs over the course of her career. And then, you look at me and you look at my career, and I've worked 5 jobs by the time I'm 25, right? And I think this is kind of the thing that's different about all these generations, is that actually the speed and the cadence with which we're working is speeding up, right? So I'm going to have probably 10 to 15 jobs, if not more, over the course of my career, whereas my grandma just 2 generations ago only had 1. And so I think that that's something that not only as an individual, we need to kind of look at ourselves and say, hey, it's okay if I've got a lot of interests. I can explore a lot of different things over the course of my career, and in fact, most of my peers are doing that too. And then I think on the employer side, the thing that we have to think about is, how do we retain people in this environment where people are hopping jobs so often? And maybe what we define as retention is also changing, right? Maybe retention means I hire someone to work on a project for me in 2015, and then they don't work for me in 2016, 2017, but they had a great experience working with me back in 2015. So when I have a new project that needs their skill sets in 2019, I can pull on them again to work as a part of that project. So I think what we mean as retention is also changing. It probably doesn't mean that I start a job and stop a job. It means I start a job and I can always go back and contribute to that company if I like working there over the course of my entire career. I think technology is the big catalyst in the shift around the future of work, right? For looking back at my grandma's generation working in the factory, very, very different work than what my mom was doing working as an accountant, using very different tools to do that work and accomplish it. And then if you even look at me today, right? I use very different tools than my mom did, and the tools a lot of times are getting smaller and more compact. My cell phone, I do probably 90% of the work that I do through my cell phone. And so when we think about the future, I think technology will continue to be the thing that kind of underpins what this change looks like. So I think we're seeing a lot of people kind of shift this mentality that says, I don't have to work just one job. I can work one job, I can have a side hustle on the side, I can, also drive for Uber or Lyft or any of these on-demand economy companies to either make a little bit more cash or contribute to something else that I'm passionate about and interested in. And I think that this is a shift that we're seeing with this young generation. And actually, if you look at people polled, the majority of people are actually over 50% doing some sort of side hustle or working on something else. And I think that that's really, it's unique to, I think, our generation, but it's also really encouraging, because if you think about the amount of impact that people will be able to have over the course of their entire career, sometimes working on multiple things not only is great for the main gig that they're doing, it gets them to kind of think in a different way, allows them to expand and broaden their horizons. But for the individual, it's also extremely fulfilling to be working on something outside of kind of the normal thing that they do to pay the bills every day, in order to kind of fuel that curiosity and keep us being a curiosity kind of fueled society and keep us pushing the boundaries. So if we don't know what the future jobs are, then the best way to prepare for that is really to learn how to learn. We know that as technology is changing, we're going to have to learn more things throughout the course of our career over time. So kind of this notion of going to college, getting a 4-year degree, and then being done with learning, I think is way of the past, right? We need to think about how do we constantly kind of update the information that we're taking in and continue to learn about new things, so that 20 years from now, we're not saying, oh, I don't know anything about this new technology that exists. We've actually kind of kept up with it, even if lightly just reading the news or getting content from conferences or whatever it may be, to learn about what that future might look like, to just keep our finger on the pulse.